Hello students, and welcome to your video all about software applications. You do need to take notes while you watch this video, so be sure you have your note page out and open, and let's begin. So we're going to start with the difference between hardware and software. If you remember in our last video, we learned all about different types of computer hardware. And in this video, we're going to be talking about different types of software. So what is the difference between the two? Well, hardware is a device you can physically touch. It is physically connected to the computer. So the hardware are things like your computer monitor that you're watching this on, maybe your mouse that you use to navigate to get to this video on Schoology, maybe even the speakers that you're using to listen to my voice right now. All of those things are computer hardware because we can physically touch them and they are connected to the computer somehow. Also, without hardware, computers would not function and software would have nothing to run on. So all of the computer hardware is needed in order to run the software. Some examples of computer hardware includes inputs and outputs like your monitor, printer, and mouse. Now, let's talk a little bit about computer software. Computer software is a collection of computer programs. And by computer programs, we're just talking about instructions that the computer actually reads. Software performs a task on a computer system. Also, software is programmed or written with a user-friendly interface so people can interact with it. So, actual computer program is a little bit tricky to read and understand. It actually is almost like a foreign language, like you'd be reading Spanish or Chinese or something. But computers can read it just fine. But the tricky thing about software is that the end user, which is like you and me, people who are using the computer, need to be able to interact with that software or that computer program. So it's really important that the end user is able to use the software appropriately. Some examples of software include word processing, spreadsheets, database, presentations, and digital publishing. There's tons of other types of software too. Video games are considered software. Websites and the internet are considered software as well. We're actually going to be focusing in this video on those 5 different types of computer software. So one thing that software and hardware have in common is that hardware and software interact because software tells the hardware which tasks it needs to perform. So let's start out with our first example of computer software, and that's word processing. Word processing is using a computer to create, edit, and print documents. Of all the software application programs we're going to be talking about in this video, word processing is definitely the most common and probably the most common that we're going to be using in our class as well. In fact, we've already been using word processing in some of our assignments. To perform word processing, of course, you need a computer, a special program called a word processor, and then you could probably use a printer and print the documents that you're creating. Some examples of word processing would be Microsoft Word and Google Docs. I'm going to show you an example of Microsoft Word and Google Docs right here on my computer. So here is an example of a Microsoft Word document. This is actually where I create all of your notes. So the note page that you're writing on right now is a word processing or a Microsoft Word document. I use words, numbers, anything I want to type. I can create tables and all sorts of things. And we're going to be going into way more detail with word processing during this class. So you're going to learn a ton of information about Microsoft Word. You can also use Google Docs as a word processing software. So this is a cloud-based system, meaning it's saved on the internet, and I can access this document through any internet-connected device. Again, here I can type my Word document. I could insert tables, and many of the same features that I can do on Microsoft Word, I can also do on Google Docs. And we're going to be using both of them in class. Next, we have spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are a document that has columns and rows, which are used to calculate numbers and organize information. So a lot of times spreadsheets are used to create budgets, produce graphs and charts, and it's used for storing and sorting data. Some examples of spreadsheets would be Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. So here is an example of Microsoft Excel document. This document I actually used with my homeroom students. I typed in all of the homeroom students' names over here, and then I was able to check off which students have completed their homeroom packets, the packets that were sent home to everybody. So I was able to keep track using a Microsoft Excel program or a spreadsheet program. I was able to keep track of which of my students had turned in their forms and which students still needed to turn in their forms. Google Drive also has an example of a spreadsheet. Google spreadsheets are actually called Google Sheets, but again, you can see it's a series of columns and rows where you can organize a bunch of different data and perform calculations. The next type of software we're going to be talking about are database. A database is an electronic filing system organized and used on a computer. So databases are a collection of information organized in such a way that a program can quickly select pieces of data. It's very similar to Microsoft Excel, but it has some differences as well. An example of a database would be Microsoft Access. I'm going to show you what Microsoft Access looks like, but actually you won't be using Microsoft Access in our class. You will be using it later on if you take ICT 2 or ICT 3, maybe as a 7th or 8th grader. But here you can see when I go to open up a new database, I can choose from all of these different types of databases. So services, comparisons, if I wanted to track my nutrition, charitable contributions, customer service, home inventory. So anytime you want to have a collection of data and have it organized in a certain way, you could use a database. Our next type of computer software is presentation software. A presentation software is a sequence of text and graphics and often audio and video to accompany a speech or public presentation. So there are many, many, many different types of presentation softwares out there. In fact, I'm using one right now to present this information to you. I'm using Microsoft PowerPoint, but there are many different types of presentation softwares. And you are going to be taking a certification exam that covers presentation software. So we're going to be spending a lot of time learning about different types of presentation software, specifically Microsoft PowerPoint. So some examples you'll want to write down are Microsoft PowerPoint, Google Slides, Prezi. So again, I'm using a PowerPoint presentation right now. You can see over here are all of the slides that I've already covered. And I'm able to put in text graphics. I could even put in audio or videos into my presentation, all so that I can make a presentation to a group of students like you guys. Of course, Google Docs has an example of a presentation software. This is called Google Slides, and same idea. I can create a presentation. All of my slides will show up over here. I can, pick out a cute little theme. And of course, add in text, graphics, audio, video, all of those kind of things. Our last type of computer software is digital publishing. Digital publishing is the digital publication of ebooks, digital magazines, and the development of digital libraries and catalogs. So a lot of times people use digital publishing to develop digital libraries, maybe of business cards, postcards, all kinds of things to maybe help their business. Some examples would include Microsoft Publisher and Adobe Digital Publishing Suite. And again, digital publishing won't be something we spend a ton of time on in this class, but I do want to show you what Publisher looks like. So when I go to create a new publisher, I can look at all of these types of things I can create. Thank you cards, address books, birthday gift coupons. That's a cute idea. So you can see it's very similar to Microsoft Word, where you're adding in images and text and things like that. But a lot of templates in here to make it easier to create some kind of publication. Well, that's it for our video all about application software. Be sure that you have three questions this time, written down in the questions column. Again, these are not questions that you have. These are questions that you're creating that could be a potential quiz or test question. So you're going to create that test question in the questions column. The answer to that question should be right next door in your notes. And then go ahead and also fill in your summary at the bottom, 2 to 3 sentences answering the essential question. See you in class! Hello, students, and welcome to your video all about software. I'm recording, so you have to be quiet. You can also use Google Docs, which is a cloud. These ones, Google. Blah, 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 blah. Well, that's it for our video all about.